All right, Dragon Ball Daima episode 20. This is the final episode of Dragon Ball Daima. I'm going to do the same exact thing I did the past couple of weeks, which is have a vague title and a vague thumbnail. So if you get notified, and you probably already know this, it won't be a spoiler. And then later on in the day, I will change the thumbnail about 5 hours or so from now. That way, the majority of people have a chance to watch the episode and they won't get spoiled. So this is the last episode of Daima. It's called Zenkai, which translates to either full force or maximum. It's whatever you want to translate it as. It's the same type of meaning here. When we last left off, we had what might have been the most visually impressive transformation sequence we've ever seen in Dragon Ball, or at least like top 3. It was so beautiful. Yuya Takahashi deserves so much credit for doing this. Goku revealed that he can now turn Super Saiyan 4 as an adult, and that was the cliffhanger. Remember, the idea is not so much that Goku will beat Gomah with the third eye. The idea is Goku has to distract him so that Piccolo or somebody else can hit him in the back of the head to knock the eye off of his forehead and decrease his power. So that's really the goal here. That's what they said in the previous episode. So before I get into the actual episode, which is coming up in a moment, click off the video now if you don't want to be spoiled. I'm going to play a brief merchandise promo for the Super Saiyan 4 merch that I dropped last week, or I think it was 2 weeks ago. Make sure you pick that up as soon as possible because they are limited. Get yours. But I'm going to play that now, and then after we come back, we're going to get into the episode, and I'll give you my thoughts in detail. Fans of Super Saiyan 4, both old and new, pick up your Then Now Forever merchandise right now in the Geekdom 101 store. Comes in various sizes and styles and different colors. Tons of colors. You can get a t-shirt, you can get a long sleeve shirt, a hoodie, many different varieties, whatever you think looks best on you. To commemorate the return of Super Saiyan 4, one of the most beloved forms in history. The link is in the description. Get yours today. The final episode of Dragon Ball Daima is called Zenkai, which translates to full force or maximum, and they get right into it. There's not even like an intro, like the opening doesn't even play. They go right into Goku versus Gomah, and Super Saiyan 4 Goku as an adult versus Gomah. They start going at it. This is the Sheeta cut among other animators that were in there, and it's just when it comes to just pure animation, when it comes to just pure like aesthetics, this was for certain like worthy of a Dragon Ball final battle. It didn't quite have like the back and forth seesaw storytelling that we saw from Frieza or from the Cell fight, like some of the older era Dragon Ball fights. And that's something that modern Dragon Ball's kind of been missing, is that type of storytelling where you have like multiple episodes. But when you compare it to like modern Dragon Ball standards, like for example, Gogeta versus Broly, it was very similar in that they put a lot into the animation and a lot into just the action. So it's a straight up like, I want to say somewhere in the neighborhood of like 6-7 minute action sequence where Goku's fighting Gomah, and Super Saiyan 4 adult Goku is going in on Gomah. I mean, dude, he is beating Gomah down hard. Like, Gomah's never felt this kind of pain before, but of course the third eye keeps him in the fight. They start going back and forth. A lot of highlights here. Gomah busts out this new technique where he creates these purple orbs and he throws them at Goku. Goku's dodging them. At one point, like even the opening shot is a big punch to Gomah's face. Very well done. He goes down. This is something that I really cannot describe through this review. Like, you just have to see it. Like, it's that visually intense. Like, it's so over the top, man, but it was so well done. They fight everywhere, and they have a lot of little references to things. Like, for example, remember that scene in Dragon Ball Super Broly that was actually a tribute to the original Broly movie where Broly grabs Goku by the head when he's in God form and mushes his head into the ice? like, and then just throws him. There's a scene where Goku kind of punches Gomah into the rocks. And actually, Gomah uses his telekinetic powers to use the rocks against Goku. And that was reminiscent of some of the things that Frieza was doing. I do want to comment that when he fired the purple orbs, it looked like he was getting the power from like the staff. But then later, he does like a modified version where the orbs turn green and fire ki blasts at Goku, and Goku has to like dodge them, move out of the way and whatnot. Like I said, there's a lot going on. It's one of those animated sequences where you have to sort of watch it in slow-mo or pause your way through it to see all the detail of, because it was moving so damn fast. At one point, Goku powers up and starts to demolish Gomah. I mean, he is just ripping him to pieces with blows, dodging Gomah's hits, counterattacking, just completely annihilating him, bro. He starts to glow, which some people are going to think may have been a tribute to Ultra Instinct. I'm not so sure about that because we've seen Goku glowing like this multiple times in the past, but it certainly looks cool. At one point, he puts his arm up in the air and like lightning comes down like the Thundercats, right? And he starts to power up a Kamehameha. This is after Goku powers up. I think at first when he's powering up, for a split second, I'm like, wait, is he gonna transform again? Like it looked like that. But all he did was just elevate his ki to the max power to fire a Kamehameha. This is the most over-the-top Kamehameha we've seen in a long time. Probably since the one that Goku did on Kefla. It's up there. Goku fires this Kamehameha. It chews through Gomah's purple orb energy, blasts a hole through Gomah, which basically blasts a hole not only through Gomah, but this Kamehameha was so powerful, it fired its way through all three of the demon worlds. So Goku made a giant hole in between Demon World 1, 2, and 3. This is insanity. This is one of the craziest feats that we've seen in quite some time. Like, he put a hole in the skies, man. That was wild. It got so crazy that, you know how Demon World 2 has like water, like the water, it's like the water area where it's mostly a big ocean. The water starts to like drain into Demon World 1. Like, you see the Tamagami there for like a second. That was just, it was so over the top. It might not be something that you would call multiversal tier, but for Daima standards, as far as that goes, it was insanity, and it's still worth putting up there in one of the top Kamehamehas of all time. Like, it really was just a blend of colors. So the blast goes right through Gomah, puts a hole in his stomach. This is just like what happened with Piccolo, Raditz, and Goku at the beginning of DBZ. Like, the hole rips right through him. So Gomah should be dead. But then the third eye starts to like regenerate him. Now, it's not as quick and as potent as the Majin Buu regeneration, but this just shows the third eye makes you damn near immortal. So Piccolo tries to hit Gomah in the back of the head as planned. This was planned. And he goes for the blast, but Gomah smacks him away. So it failed. Piccolo failed. He was unable to do it. Gomah starts to power up the third eye again. And, it starts to just energy everywhere. He's regenerating, lightning everywhere. He creates a force field to block everybody out from attacking him. And while all that's going on, of all people, outside of characters like Bulma and like Hybis, probably the weakest fighter of all of them, Majin Ku. Of all people, Majin Ku comes up from behind Gomah, and he's got the book. He's got that big, thick book that Arintu had, and he smashes the book in the back of Gomah's head. And that's what knocks the third eye out. The third eye literally pops out of his head. Gomah goes back to his original form, like the short form. Glorio steps on the eye, and the battle is over. This was crazy. Of all the characters, Majin Ku. Now, the one big surprise is that they did not use the fusion bugs here. I genuinely thought that the foreshadowing in episode 4, even though I had no proof, I thought that the foreshadowing in episode 4 would lead to some kind of fusion, even if it was a comedy fusion, like Ku and Do. I saw some people say they wanted Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta or Gogeta, and I told everybody to keep their expectations low, not because I knew that the fusion bugs would be like not a Goku Vegeta fusion, but because I suspected it was going to be something new. But they didn't even use the bug. So to me, that's actually bad, because that type of foreshadowing and not delivering is just not something you want to do. I think that's a bad move. I knew that there were going to be some plot threads that couldn't get resolved in the last episode, because it's a regular length episode and you just can't resolve everything in one episode. You just can't. Because there was too many unfinished plot threads. So I kind of knew that they wouldn't be able to resolve everything, but I really did not think that the bug fusion is something that they would not be able to resolve. Like, I thought that was for sure happening. Like, and I'm not the only one. I saw the comments. Everybody watching Daima knew that a fusion was coming, and there was no fusion. So in fact, they didn't even do a comedy fusion after the fact. Like, the bugs, Goku dropped them, the bugs were just forgotten about. That was very weird and honestly kind of disappointing. So the battle is over. We see Gomah like in this, surrounded by this purple sludge, and Degasu. He gets arrested basically. And what happens is Marva appears and she takes Degasu and Gomah and does basically a demonic version of the Mafuba, which is the demonic containment wave, the evil containment wave. For sure this was a throwback to that, and traps Gomah and Degasu in this little jar. That little jar right there is basically, like, to me, saying that they're leaving this open for the future. I'm not saying we're going to get another season of Daima, nor am I saying for sure there's going to be another storyline where Gomah and Degasu come back. But the fact that they didn't die and are just trapped in this jar, that could easily lead to a storyline later on where they come back or somebody frees them. You know, there's a lot of possibilities there. They didn't die. As I've said many times before, they were originally, I was told a while ago, before the passing of Toriyama, that Daima storylines and characters and lore would be used later on in Dragon Ball. Now, I don't know if that meant more Daima episodes or just stuff in Super, but I always thought it was going to be like a future Super storyline, which they could do. They could still do that. And, but when Toriyama passed, everything may have changed. And ultimately, that is the big sort of question, is where everything stands now, because it seems like, based on, and I have more to talk about in the episode, but it seems like based on this ending that there's more, that Toriyama may have had more in the back of his head, like more ideas, or maybe he did write them down. I don't know. Nobody knows except for the people at the tippy top. So it seems like they left a lot open for the future. But now that Toriyama passed, I don't know if and when they're going to ever get to it, if they even have anything, or if Toriyama just had it all in his head. I don't know. Like, I do not know. So then they spent some time trying to figure out who the next Grand Demon King is going to be now that Gomah's gone. And of all people, it ends up being Majin Ku. And this is how Majin Ku got the cape. In one of the original videos that I did back in September, where I went into very mild Daima spoilers, I showed Majin Ku with a cape on. And that's because the image that was sent to me, he had a cape, but we didn't see the cape. Well, it makes sense. Dabura had a cape. Abura had a cape in the flashbacks. Gomah had a cape. So having a cape is like having a crown in the demon realm. He is the new king of the demon realm. He goes into this like spiel where he talks about changing the demon realm and making it better. That sounded just like a politician running for office. Like, you know what I mean? It was so goofy. So of all people, Majin Ku, who's not the strongest guy, is now the king of the three demon realms. And that was kind of, again, unexpected. It was very unexpected. Toriyama always throws curveballs in these things. The lack of fusion, I think, was another curveball. Very much so. So Pansy gives Bulma one of the little crystals, the Magiite crystals or whatever, so she can take it with her. Again, it seems like they were setting something up for later with this, but I'm not sure. Then we have a conversation with Goku and Vegeta, and Vegeta asks Goku about the new transformation. Now, first of all, Goku straight up calls it Super Saiyan 4. He says Super Saiyajin full. And he said that he continued to train after the Buu Saga, which is true. Well, he didn't say after the Buu Saga, but he continued to train, which is obvious because Vegeta did too. And he says that he always thought he had it in him, but he didn't even know. It just kind of happened, is what he said. So it feels like this is a combination of what Jordan and I were saying and training. So we obviously were saying that training didn't play a part in it because he would have been able to unlock the form on his own, but Neva's magic is what actually triggered it. So it was a combination of the two. However, there's no explanation in this episode as to why or how Goku doesn't use the form again, with the exception of him saying it just kind of happened. It almost feels like he didn't know it was going to happen, but that doesn't make sense because in the previous episode, we see him tap into it on his own. So this is, again, more unresolved plot threads. This is going to lead to canon arguments. I already see it because people obviously want to know if this is in the same timeline as Super, why didn't we get the explanation? Why didn't we get the Supreme Kai refusing with Kibito? We didn't even see the fusion bugs at all. They left a lot of things open. In my opinion, too many things I felt they left open. And that, to me, is going to lead to some disappointment among fans. Not to mention, I really thought we were going to see Gohan in the last episode. Like, Goku goes back to Earth and he sees Gohan as an adult again. It's like, oh, there he is. You know, a brief cameo. We didn't even get that. No Gohan at all. That also surprised me. I think a lot of people are going to see this as being a disappointing ending. Now, the first part of the episode with the fight, that was glorious. I mean, that was just, you know, a very well executed final battle of Daima. But then the final 12 minutes or so, I think could have been used better and did feel a bit rushed. There were some moments we didn't see. This show really would have benefited from being even just 5 more episodes. I think it would have benefited from that. But it was what I was worried about when I was reviewing episode 13, 14, that they would not be able to fit everything in. Because if you remember, even Dragon Ball Super's last episode tried to cram a lot into that last sort of half of the episode. This felt like that too, except this didn't address a lot of things. And it did remind me of Super because I remember when I saw 131, I didn't think it was as good as 129 or 130. Well, maybe 129. 130 and 131 went well together. Here, I feel like Daima episode 18 and 19 were probably better than 20. I think that they stuck the landing on the combat portion of it and a little bit of the comedy, but some of the plot threads have been left open, and I know it's going to lead to canon debates because there are so many things that like didn't get wrapped up or tied into Super. Now, I had said on social media and in my streams this past weekend, if you're expecting every plot thread to be closed off in this episode, you're probably going to be disappointed. However, even I didn't expect it to be like this, where the bugs weren't even used. I thought for sure, at least for a comedy bit. But no, nothing, and that was unexpected. The other thing that was a disappointment was the explanation or lack thereof of Super Saiyan 4. So Vegeta asked Goku about the new transformation, which Goku straight up refers to as Super Saiyan 4. Like, it's called Super Saiyajin full, like he straight up calls it that. And that's the only time it's ever called that in the entirety of this show. And he basically says that he underwent special training after the fight with Buu, and that it just kind of happened. However, clearly based on the visual cues, Neva had something to do with it because he unlocked the form with his magic. So I'm not really sure what the messaging is here. Like Goku says that he did special training, did not go into what the training was or who he trained with or any of that stuff. And then when you look at episode 18, you literally see Nevi using his magic to rearrange Goku's DNA. So it's very confusing that it contradicts it. I'm going to just assume that it's a combination of both. That Goku knew he had something else in him and Neva was able to just trigger it. Goku couldn't achieve the form on his own. That's the way I'm seeing it until Neva triggered it. But there's no explanation but beyond that. Like there's nothing else told. So either we're going to get notes or something later or maybe nothing. Again, since the passing of Toriyama, it's very difficult to know or predict what's coming because we don't know what he left behind. Like it's unspoken of. And that was weird. So one of the highlights here was Vegeta said, he brought back the classic line from the Majin Buu saga where he said it's a Super Saiyan bargain sale. And then Goku was like, yeah, but you got 3. So, I mean, yeah, they both transformed into new forms for them in Daima because they both trained. I mean, training is obviously part of it, but Neva didn't use his magic on Vegeta at all. And I do think, in my opinion, it was a missed opportunity for Vegeta to get Super Saiyan 4. I actually would have wanted that both of them get it, maybe through Neva's magic, but they didn't do that either. So, I don't want to criticize the episode for things that I thought were going to happen that didn't, with the exception of like the fusion bugs and more of an explanation of certain things. That's worth criticizing because they literally foreshadowed this all the way back in episode 4. Everyone in the fandom, every content creator, every fan was asking, are we going to get Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, Ku and Do? And I was just saying, keep your expectations low. Not because I knew there would not be a fusion. No, I said multiple times that I thought there would be. I really did, because you've got the bugs there. And someone would find the bag, even as a joke, even after the battle. Nothing. And that, to me, I thought was a mistake. I think that's a writing error. I wouldn't have written it like that. I just wouldn't have done that. So as they're leaving the demon realm, it goes to a credit roll, just like the first episode, except on the right side, they show images of other things going on. We see a lot of Goku's friends back in their adult forms, Majin Buu, Mr. Satan, 18, Krillin. We see Trunks and Goten. Trunks is on a hoverboard, of all things. That was like the Back to the Future 2 hoverboard. So they show all this, right? They even show like inside of the perfume glass where Gomah and Degasu are. They're playing video games. So they're passing the time there because they're supposed to be trapped there for like almost 100 years or something like that. But no Gohan. Not even there did they show Gohan. The only time you see Gohan in this entire show is in the recap in episode 1 of the events of Z, when you have Ultimate Gohan against Super Buu, and in the opening when you have Goku and Gohan next to each other when they're recapping the previous events of the story. That's it. And that is also, I think, a big disappointment for Gohan fans. I wasn't sure we would see Gohan at all, but I really thought that in the last episode they would show him, even Videl, even if it was just for a second, even if there's no dialogue. They didn't even do that. So a lot of people are going to be disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm not like upset about it. I'm not going to like scream that the entire show was a waste of time, because I don't think it was. I enjoyed a lot of the episodes. I'm going to do a full breakdown of the entire series, and I'm going to do a breakdown tomorrow here on the channel. Right now in Japan is the anniversary, the 1-year anniversary of the passing of Akira Toriyama. This was not planned out, by the way. This was not something they planned out when they started Daima. It just so happens the last episode bled into the last, the anniversary of Toriyama's passing. And I'll be doing my breakdown tomorrow on the channel, going into more detail on this episode. But I'm not done. There is a post-credit scene. Now, the post-credit scene is not Beerus. It's not Moro. I saw a lot of people wanting this. I understand why they want it. They want it to tie into Super or to tease something for the future. And I just had a feeling they weren't going to do that. and they didn't. Instead, the post-credit scene features Goku and them going back to the store in episode 4 where the fusion bugs were at, and because he wants some of the healing bugs. So they have this gag where she gives Bulma these bugs that can like re-beautify her, like de-age her, and she's like happy about it. Then they find this jar, and what's inside the jar? Another third eye. So the big revelation here is that there are multiple third eyes out there. And this, to me, when I saw it, felt like an MCU post-credit scene from back in the day. Like, if this felt like they are telling you, we're going to revisit this in the future. Now, again, like I said, after the passing of Toriyama, I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't know what they're going to do. But it felt like, yeah, it could have been a gag that there's multiple third eyes, but it could also be a gag that leads to something actually serious happening with that remaining third eye, with that other third eye. So who knows how many demonic third eyes are out there now. And that's the last sort of scene of Daima right there. So it does feel like they were thinking about or planning for the future, or it was just Toriyama being silly. Either way, it can easily lead to them revisiting these characters and stories in the future. So what are my overall thoughts? Despite a lot of the plot threads being left open and some stuff being disappointing, the first part with Gomah versus Goku is worth going out of your way to see. You're all going to see it anyways. It was very exciting, and that was good stuff. The problem was, of course, with the pacing. My concern going back to episode 13, 14 was that they were not going to have enough time, and it looks like they didn't. But it does, like, I don't want to say this. I am not guaranteeing this, but it does feel like the end was more like a season finale than a series finale. I'm not saying there's going to be more Daima or anything, because we do not know. I do not know if there's more coming, but it felt like there was still more things they could go back to in the future. So I think it'll come down to that. If they don't, then they don't. I mean, it is what it is. But ultimately, I think episode 18 and 19 were better. And I think they could have used their time a bit more wisely. That's truthfully how I feel. So I would say the first part of the episode was a thumbs up. The last part was kind of thumbs in the middle. You know, and maybe even leaning down in some instances, because there was a lot of things they foreshadowed that did not get proper payoffs. So I'll be discussing more of that in the breakdown tomorrow and stream coming up very soon. Take care of yourself. I'll see you tomorrow.